Good morning, stitching friends. It's Amy Gable Stitcher here with a stitching update for you. Today is Monday, September 16th, 2019. If you are a returning viewer, thank you. Welcome back. If you are new, thanks for tuning in. I look forward to sharing my stitching with you for this week. So, as I said, it is Monday. It has been now, it's the middle of September. The kids are fully back at school. We're getting back into a routine. The weather is turning fall-like, although I do believe we are going to have some really warm weather this week. But the nights are chilly. It's definitely that crisp air, and I am really enjoying this time of year. It definitely is likely my favorite time of year. So after the heat of the summer, it's very refreshing. This week was a busy week. It was the first week of my kids' full week of school, full week of extracurriculars. There was a few doctor's visits for kids. I did not feel that I got a lot of stitching in. And then when I looked over, I think I got more than I thought. So I decided to do a little video just to share what I did this week and what I plan on doing for next week. I did drop my fair entries off at the Topsail Fair this past weekend. Drove them up, dropped them off, and I hope to make it up there to see them being entered, which will be exciting. The fair is late this year. It's October 4th to 14th if you are a New England person. If you watch my last video, you'll see the two pieces that I entered in the fair. So, stitching, let's get to it. So the first thing I worked on is Permanent Copenhagen Sampler 1830. This is what I'm calling my daily stitch. I make an effort to put a piece of thread in a day. It's a very large sampler. I have hashtagged it Amy's Green Blanket on Instagram. And I am going to attempt to put a picture in of what it looked like last time. And when I was working on it this week, I actually kept track of how many days I worked on it. I only put in 2.5 pieces of thread, the piece that was left on there and 2 others, which is still better than none. So I'm not going to take it off the Q-snap. What I did is I basically almost finished that motif. You can see I have a little bit more over here. This is done on 32 count Belfast linen. I believe it's the colorway Natural. And I am doing it with DMC 934. So once again, my goal for this week is to make this my daily thread. And what I mean by that is by just putting 1 thread a day in this project. Okay, the next thing I worked on was Satsuma Street 12 Days of Christmas. I would like to get this piece finished this year. I started it last September and I already have a frame for it. So I would really like to have it completed by Christmas so I can have it hanging for the season. I'm going to put a picture in of where I was last time and a picture of the cover sheet because I cannot find that right now. So thankful for technology, I can do that. I worked on this about 3 days. Hold it up. And you can see I worked on my 8 maids of milking. I had not started that 8th block prior to this week. So, let's hold this block up. This is not a full coverage design, obviously, but these blocks do have a lot of stitching in it. And there's a lot of color changes. So you can see, there's my maid of milking and my headless cow. So hopefully the cow will have a head later on today. And there is a barn that goes back here. So, like I said, I worked on it 3 days. Most of these other blocks took me about 4 days of stitching. When I say days, I mean like at night when I'm watching TV. So I would like to finish this block this week and start the next block. Like I said, it's middle of September. I would like to have this finished by December 1st. I have everything I need to frame it, mat board, frame, glass. I just need to finish the stitching part of it. So hopefully that's motivation for me to get it done. This is stitched on 28 count Monaco that comes in a tube at Michael's with the called for DMC. The next thing that I did not stitch on this week, but I'm going to show you anyways, is Spooky Countdown by Primitive Hair. This is my travel piece. I actually was traveling quite a bit this week. 2 kids had doctor's appointments. We started extracurriculars, but just the nature of the week, it was the first week, so it was a lot of paperwork for me to fill out, and just the doctor's visits were a lot of running around and not much time sitting, which is good, but it meant that I didn't stitch very much. Didn't stitch at all. So this is where this is now. Hold it up so you can see. So this week, I should have more stitching time on this. And I would really like to finish the 2 blocks on this row, remaining blocks. And what I tend to do with this is I'll outline those 2 blocks and I'll probably color complete the 2 blocks at the same time. So that's my goal for this week. And this is stitched on a 32 count MCG textiles that I coffee and tea dyed myself. It is linen. It is extremely uneven. I thought about giving up this project because the fabric is that uneven. However, I like the way it looks. So we're going to continue with it. The last thing I stitched on this weekend is a new start. And it is not something I had mentioned in my last video. When Friday rolled around, Friday was Friday the 13th, and it was a full moon. And I was like, Friday the 13th and a full moon, that requires a Halloween start. So I looked at what I had pulled out during my Halloween video, and the 3 pumpkin ladies were calling to me. This is by the Little Stitcher on Etsy. And I just felt that on a full moon on Friday the 13th, these ladies would be wandering around. So I love it. I have decided that Little Stitcher fits into a lot of her charts, designs, fit into the category of what I would call creepy cute, this being that category. And I feel like a lot of the Primitive Hair fits into the creepy cute category, like her fairy tale charts. And I also have decided that I really like creepy cute. So I think I've said before, I'm not really a cutesy person, especially with Halloween, but you add a little, a little bit of a creep factor to it, and I'm all over it. So I pulled from Stash to get this up. This is my start. This is a 46 count Bergen linen, and I feel like that's pretty accurate of a color. Might be a little bit darker than what you're seeing. More of a green color. And this is not a huge design, but it's not small either. It is 125 by 108. And I purely picked the 46 count because I had a small scrap that I picked up at Silk Weavers, and it will fit in a standard size frame once I finish it. So I figure it would be a quick FFO. So that's what I have so far. And I am using a mix of hand dyed from Stash, which is primarily Victorian Mono, and the call for DMC. And so I was pulling out the brown on the pumpkin is dark cocoa beet. And then I thought these two were perfect. The border is Haunted Bridge. It's like a really rich mulberry color, a little bit of a brown tone. And the pumpkin, it doesn't come across on screen, but it does have some nice variegation, is Return to Sleepy Hollow. And that's this really nice orange color. The dress, believe it or not, is DMC. It's 3021. I had looked through all my floss for the right color for the dress because it's a brown, but it kind of has a gray undertone, and I just did not have the right color brown. And when I put them against the other colors I had chosen, my grays for the dress did not look great, but this did. So let me pull that up so you can see them. They're just really pretty. So that was a new start. I started it Friday night. Stitched on it a little bit Friday night and a little bit this weekend. I don't tend to get much stitching time over the weekend unless I go to my stitching group on Saturday, and I did not this week. So I will likely work on it another day or two this week. When I start something new, I like to work on it at least 3 days. So I feel like I get a good bite into it. So the next time when I go back to it, I'm not looking at it saying, what was I doing there? You know, so I kind of want to be able to just pick it up the next time and go to it without trying to figure out what I actually stitched. So now this one's pretty easy because obviously at this point I could put it down and pick it up in a couple of weeks and figure it out. But I would like to work on it another day or so this week. And that is all I stitched this week. So 3 projects, although, like I said, I really only did about 2 threads on my sampler 1830. For the current week, my plans. I would like to finish my block on Satsuma Street, 12 Days of Christmas, and start the next block. As long as I get a start on the next block, I don't feel like I need to finish it. I just want to get a little bit into it. I'm going to continue to work on this for another day or so. Let's be fair. It might be 2 days because I'm really loving this. And my travel piece. Primitive Hair, Spooky Countdown. The other thing that I need to do this week is I am going to an Ellen Chester retreat in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, the first week of October. And there is a smalls exchange in that retreat. It's not mandatory. It's if you want to do it or not. But I would like to do it. And the theme is something to go along with the class. And the class is an Ellen Chester work basket. So I was going to stitch something in Halloween from my basket, but I don't think it really fits with the theme. And then I was looking. This is a previous finish. I showed this before. This is called Salem. It's by an Etsy designer, and I can't remember the name right now. I'll try to link it below. So I finished this earlier this year, and what I was thinking is taking a couple of these motifs and making them into a fob. So, because a scissor fob is what you would find in a work basket, but it's October, and like I said, I always think Halloween in October. So I could totally take, maybe the Quaker motif and like a bat. So put one on one side and one on the other, or a Quaker motif and a pumpkin, and make it into a scissor fob. So I don't need to finish that this week, but I kind of need to get a start. And I have more of that fabric left that I used it with. This is an XJU design fabric. It's a 40 count. I have no idea what the colorway is at this point. It's green. It's darker than what I'm showing. And it has some really nice modeling in it. Like, you can see the modeling. So I need to get started on that. Like I said, not finish it, but get started. I feel like I'm the most uncreative person in the world because I can't think of anything else to make for the exchange other than a scissor fob. So I guess I could do a pillow. That would work. You might see that in a work basket because you can put pins in it. If you have any other suggestions, feel free to comment because I am definitely open to suggestions. So that is a plan. And something I said I was going to do this week, and I did not do this week, but I hope to do this coming week. To follow that, plan to do, is find fabric and stash dive for Charlotte Frobisher by R&R Reproductions. This is a sampler that is in the PVD Essex Museum, or it's in the collection of the PVD Essex Museum in Salem, Massachusetts. And I would like to start it this month for sampler September, and also because it ties in with Salem and Halloween. What I'm doing with my pumpkin ladies is I'm just sitting with my box of DMC and my hand dyes, and as I'm pulling each color, I'm looking through my hand dyes and seeing if I have something that either matches up or is in the same family that will look good on the fabric. Not a scientific, conversion at all. And I would likely do the same thing for Charlotte Frobisher. Because sometimes I feel like you can't really tell what something's going to look like until it's in the fabric. And it's been working well with the pumpkin ladies, so we will try that with Charlotte. So really, I'm just going to stash dive a piece of fabric for that. That is stitching. I have a little bit of haul. I bought 2 items a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to show you what they were. One of them is the Home for the Holidays book by Blackbird Designs. This came out, I think, last year. And there was a stitch along last year of one of the designs in here. It's a Facebook group for that stitch along. And a lot of people stitched it. And at the time I was thinking I really, really would like to stitch it. And I never got around to buying that book. So that group on Facebook, I believe, is called Home for the Holidays. And starting October 1st, they're going to do another stitch along. So this year I couldn't resist. This was the design that a lot of people did last year. Sure, if you've watched any Flosstube or been on Instagram or Facebook in the last 12 to 18 months, you have seen this. So this is, I'm not going to do a full flip through, but this is a really great book. There were a few designs in here that were hard to find before that they republished. One of them was Christmas Garden. It's very large. It's 225 by 227. Very beautiful. And it only calls for like 4 colors. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I am not going to do that one for this sale. I would like to stitch it at some point, but not this year. I will not be stitching the bird because I feel like I've seen it so much over the last year. I feel like I've stitched it. I would like to stitch it at some point, but it will not be this year. Blessings Be Thine. I think this is what I'm going to stitch from it. I really, really like this. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to stitch it as charted. I might leave out the alphabet. I might just do the bottom part, or I might take the alphabet out and maybe repeat that motif up at the top. I'm not 100% sure, but I really, really like this one, and I would love it hanging on my wall. That is 123 by 123, so it's not huge, and it only calls for 4 colors. And there are a bunch of smalls in here too. These are hard to show because the charts are here. Let's see if I can, there we go. There are a bunch of stockings and just some, you know, little smalls. So this is a very good Blackbird book to get. Wasn't horribly expensive for as many charts as there are in it. It was just released last year, I believe, but as with all things Blackbird, if you want it, I wouldn't sleep on it because you never know. 2016, so actually it's been out a little bit longer than I thought. My other purchase was Sisters by Blackbird Designs. And I have been looking at this book and putting it down for like the last 3 or 4 years every time I go to an LNS. And finally, I was like, I'm just going to buy it because I feel that this is a very underrated Blackbird book, and it's been out a long time. And if I missed out on it, I would have been very, very upset. I think there are 4 designs in this book, and I could stitch, or would like to stitch, every single design in here. So I'm going to do a quick flip there because there are only 4 designs in here. It's called Sisters because there are 2 samplers made by sisters in here, antique samplers. The charts are. So this is the original sampler. This is A. Shields, 1824. And then the other one is the sister chart, Mrs. H. Shields, 1823. Then there's an original sampler in here that is just so cute. It's called At First Cock's Crow. Yeah, it's really adorable. So it's the same, spirit of the other 2 samplers, but it is a reproduction sampler. So, really cute. That's 3. Actually, there's 5 in here. There's another Christmas sampler called Peace and Plenty. Really, really pretty. And, you know, you can make this into a regular sampler and take out a Christmas blessing at the bottom and hang it up all year round. So pretty. And then the last one in here I love. This is called Witch No More. Love, love, love it. With the motifs down the side, the house, the moon. I love everything about the sampler. The only thing I don't love about the sampler, it's 173 by 94. Look at this list of threads. I can tell you that I will not be buying all those overdyes. I'll be using what I have and using mostly from stash and maybe buy one or two if I find that I really need them. But so Sisters. I think this is a very underrated book, and it has been around for a long time. (2013), 6 years. It's still readily available. No idea how long it will be available. I purchased both of these from Jen's Stitch and Knitch on Etsy. I'll link her below. Jen also has a Flosstube that I enjoy watching. She has wonderful stitching, and she is just very enjoyable to watch. So, yeah, that's my stash enhancement for the week. Neither of those books are, inexpensive, so to say, but I feel that they give a lot of bang for the buck. I can see myself stitching likely everything in both of those books. And those are two books that I would be very upset if I had missed out on. So it was a thoughtful purchase. One last thing I want to talk about is I read a lot. And I occasionally share my books on Facebook that I read. And I have a lot of stitching friends on Facebook. And we end up getting into a little discussion over the books. I have an eclectic taste in what I read, just as in what I stitch. I read some mindless fiction. I enjoy mysteries. I read classics sometimes. I read a decent amount of nonfiction. I try to have one nonfiction book going at a time. And right now I am reading Richard Preston, Crisis in the Red Zone. And this is by the author of The Hot Zone, which was about Ebola. It's an old book. It's probably about 20 years old, older. I think I read it before I was married. And this is about the latest outbreak of Ebola that brought Ebola to the United States. So, really good book. I am almost done with it. I find the travel of diseases very interesting. It's not a book that gets into a lot of gross details, but it does follow the migration of the disease, how it had mutated over time, and how diseases travel and how to fight diseases. So if you read The Hot Zone a million years ago and enjoyed it, or thought it sounded interesting, I recommend Crisis in the Red Zone. It just came out, I want to say maybe September or late August. I think I was actually the first person to take it out of the library. And when that's done, I'll pick another nonfiction book and likely share it as well. So that is it. Thank you for coming to visit. Thank you for continuing to tune in, liking, and subscribing. I will put some links down below. It may take a few hours or into tomorrow for me to do it. And I am going to attempt to grab some screenshots from my last video to put them in. We'll see how that works. I am not technologically proficient at all. Every other person in the household runs circles around me. But I am having fun trying to figure things out, and that's the important thing. So thank you once again for coming by. Happy stitching, everyone, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.